Well, what is going on, my fellow fart knockers and dillweeds? It's Antmaster 5 with you from where? 8 feet underground, somewhere at the base of the Catskill Mountains, in, yes, the Gen X locker. Coming at you from the Gen X locker. Go ahead, make my millennium. Going to where everyday Joe like myself can go when we get a little action. That's me. It's only been do that. So you speaking of that, oh hey, what's going on, kids? It's Master 5 with you. We're rolling into episode 2. But first, I was just gonna do a not that I'm getting paid for this, but I was gonna plug the new Beetlejuice. I almost said the new Beetlejuice album. I saw the trailer for the new Beetlejuice sequel. It's not a reboot, it's a sequel. Yeah. Looking, I don't know. It's either gonna be amazing or like a box office flop. Have we had any box office flops lately? Has there been any Water Worlds? I liked Water World. Dryland's not a myth. So I was cruising over to Ollie's the other day, and I found this: the 100 best-selling albums of the '90s. So they compiled this book. It's a picture book. They compiled this book. I guess they started the clock at like uh, January 1st of 1990, and I think they ended it at December 31st of 1999. So it's literally in that 10-year period of everything that was like Mondo selling. Oh, anyway, so I was gonna like breeze through all 100 of them, but that just gets completely boring. But there's some up in like the 80s and 90s that I was actually surprised that were up. That I guess I should say that low, where I was like, wow, okay. Like for instance, Bush 16 Stone came in at number 91. I just thought that album sold so much more. I mean, honest to God, like a lot of these albums in here, you could not get away from. So I used to work in like, adult contemporary, top 40, hot adult contemporary, hot AC radio. I mean, I worked in active rock, I work in oldies. When I worked in oldies, that was, the whole Pure Gold Music Radio, 97.3 WZAD. All right, take a look at your Metro. You sound like Quagmire. It's like, yeah, Texaco Oil for the best oil and the best service. Which is where Seth MacFarlane said he got that idea from, like that old school radio shtick. So I figured I'd just dive into like the top 50 or like the last 50 because I was kind of shocked of. Let me remove my bookmark because I was kind of like shocked to see like what even made. I was actually shocked to see what made number one. I put a Sweetwater sticker on my water bottle, water, whatever the hell it is. It's the holy grail of Gen X. So coming in at number 50, Mr. Billy Ray Cyrus. Oh Lord, some gave all. It actually says it didn't yield any number one singles. How could that be? Because we all remember "Don't Tell My Head, My Empty Hollow Head" or whatever the hell that song was. That they did a parody of that on Pinky and the Brain, and that was the parody. That was like there was like a parody, a parodal, a guy that was like supposedly like a parody of Billy Ray Cyrus, and that was his song. So coming in number 49, the album named The Writings on the Wall, Destiny's Child. For those of you who don't know Destiny's Child, I'll tell you, it's Beyonce and three other chicks. Moving right along, I celebrate his entire catalog. Mr. Michael Bolton, Time, Love, and Tenderness. If you saw Office Space, you know Michael Bolton. So we're just going to dive right into this head first. Her self-titled album comes in at number 47 with 9,350,000 album sales. And that is Miss Mariah Carey. Now, I will say, I'll be using this term a lot, an album that you couldn't get away from, an album you could. This was an album that you could not get away from. And I'm just surprised it's, but then again, this album had to sell like into the millennium, into the year 2000. So 9 million. Nah, come on, it's Mariah Carey. Yielded a bunch of singles to this one, Visions of Love, Love Takes Time, Someday, which did that really high thing that, you know, made the fish tank break. And I Don't Want to Cry. So don't cry. Who's stopping it? Are the pages? Shut it. Coming in at number 46, a band that I do love, a staple of mine through the 80s, Achtung Baby, U2. It's a great album. I own this album. There's one that I do own. One number one single was The Fly, but this also had the song One, and Mysterious Ways. She moves in mysterious ways. Coming in number 45, somebody that definitely paved the road to I want to say, the new brigade of female R&B, the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. You couldn't deny her, couldn't deny the Fugees. They were everywhere on, you know, terrestrial radio and MTV. Remember MTV? It used to play videos. Number 44, the album named Dangerous, if you remember the man. Jacko himself, Michael Jackson. I was a fan, like, I mean, when Thriller hit, I mean, I was like 8, so that album was just, you walked out of your home and somebody had Thriller. The mailman had it in his Walkman, so there was no hiding from Thriller. I had Bad. I remember that album, but then like so many artists, I get lost after the sophomore record. So, oh Lord have mercy. So Ace of Base with The Sign coming in at the number 43 album, with 9,650,000 sales for the 90s. And of course, we all know the single, All That She Wants Is Another Sip of Water. What was the connection with them and ABBA? They were Swedish. Number 42. Keep my album off your list. I'll punch you in the mouth. Big Willie style. Yeah, number 42. That was another album that I'm surprised is that high up on the, or low, rather, however you want to do that. That was released in November of 97. And we all know he was getting jiggy with it. And Miami. I'm really not going to say much about it. You know why? I like Chris Rock. End of discussion. Number 41, an album that I owned, still own. I have it on double, what's that disc thing, the drive? I have it on double CD. Unlike, Guns N' Roses that released, Use Your Illusion 1 and Use Your Illusion 2, this band did the right thing. They released both albums at the same time in the same conglomerate. So, without further ado, The Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness by the Smashing Pumpkins, coming in at number 41 with a total of album sales. Like I said, I think it's just for the 90s, 10 million and 50. How do you read that number? This album had just, oh my God. And again, it says no number one singles. That's impossible. You had Bullet with Butterfly Wings, you had Zero, you had Tonight Tonight. I mean, the world is a vampire. So, coming into the top 40, I know nothing about boy bands. These guys, NSYNC, are at the number 40 spot with their self-titled album. My biggest thing with boy bands is just the construction of the boy band, if you will. Like, it's like a bunch of talent agencies, get together and they're like, hey, I got a guy. Hey, I got a guy. Hey, I got a guy. And let's let our guys meet. And, and they all sounded good in the studio, and let's see what they all sound like together. Like when I started my first band, I started my band with my friends. I was like, I don't know who the hell these people are. Like, how the hell do I know I'm gonna vibe with them? Maybe that's why boy bands don't really ever kind of work, and that's why there's always so much turmoil. And believe it or not, this album coming in at number 35, shame on me because I'm kind of a fan. I never even heard of Garth Brooks with Sevens. If you want to give me shit for it, I mean, please do. I saw Garth Brooks when he was a nobody. I mean, like literally nobody. His self-titled CD came out, and he opened up for Kenny Rogers. My dad wanted to see Kenny Rogers at the Westbury Music Fair in Westbury, Long Island. And this no-name guy named Garth Brooks opened up for him. And there's so many people like, oh, you're full of shit. It's like, I mean, not everybody is famous out of the womb. I mean, come on. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that, saw the Stones before they were anything, before they were even rolling. Number 38, because I DJ'd and then I did the whole DJ thing where I did, Sweet 16s and, stuff like that, weddings. And I mean, I'll tell you what you want, what you really, really want. Another one. I hate to kill a dead horse with this saying, couldn't get away from that album. I had a total thing for Emma Button that was Baby Spice. She makes me feel kind of funny, like when we used to climb the ropes in gym class. Number 37, All Eyes on Me, Tupac, which is kind of ironic because, even after, he passed away, he was always coming out with another album. I don't know how he did that. Number 36 is the album Fly by the Dixie Chicks. I am going to call them the Dixie Chicks. I don't care. 10,450,000 record sales. 35. I was never a fan of ska, but this was more of a pop ska. So you're pretty much going to know who it is immediately. Tragic Kingdom, Gwen Stefani, and No Doubt. The only thing I'm going to say about this album, I remember I saw them with an ex-girlfriend, on the tour for Tragic Kingdom, and this guy Tony Kamal, the bass player. So they used to date. Him and Gwen Stefani used to date, and she basically wrote a bunch of songs here about him, about how much she hated him, and you're just a piece of shit, and like I guess like Don't Speak was one of them, and she's literally in his face singing the lyrics to him like you, and it's like, can you, man? It's like, why are you doing that? I mean, look, he's a good bass player. I will say that. But it's like, you can't really throw him out of the band, but maybe you should, Tony, maybe you should have got another gig. You're a good bass player. Because is he still in the band? Does he still subject himself to that shit? Even though she's already, well, I know she divorced Gavin Rossdale and now she's with, what's his name? Fill in the blank, the country guy. Well, Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him is coming in at number 34. Can't touch this. Great album. I mean, he really wasn't a one-hit wonder. But then, he kind of went like on a downslope, and then like he tried to get gangsta, and like he started hanging out with Tupac, and even Tupac and Biggie and everybody in that whole brigade of gangsta rap was like, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. What's with the genie pants? Movie soundtrack coming in at number 33 for a movie I only saw one time, and that was the only time I needed to see it because it was sad and I didn't like the idea that they killed off Mufasa as the Lion King. The 90s were dominated by movie soundtracks. I think more show up here. Number 32, Miss Mariah Carey again with Daydream. Yeah, this was in heavy rotation at the radio station. Wait, did I do that right? Okay, so and this one yielded a lot of hits. You had Fantasy, One Sweet Day. That was the one with Boyz II Men. Always Be My Baby. So yeah, it was constantly, you know, churning in the what do they call these things that go? They're over there. My headphones. Speaking of gangster rap, Life After Death, the Notorious B.I.G. coming in at 31. Biggie Smalls, give me the loot, give me the loot, give me the loot, give me the loot. Always liked Chris Wallace, Biggie. And you know what? I will say, like, listening to his mom in like interviews, like in the wake of his death, damn, that hurt. It's like you just your heart bled for the woman. Coming in at number 30, Creed with Human Clay. I mean, what can you say about this album? Other than with arms wide open, welcome to Creed. There's a Christian band taking it over the charts, just like Eddie Vedder. See the connection? It is just like Eddie Vedder. I despise that album. Another song that was just like, oh, definitely we're gonna put the comedy aside for this one. Coming in number 25, Mr. Eric Clapton, the legend himself, with the MTV Unplugged album. MTV did a lot of great stuff with the Unplugged albums, but Eric Clapton's was legendary. I mean, he did that acoustic version of Layla, and Tears in Heaven, which he was still reeling from the death of his son, and it was a horrible thing. I mean, he was a toddler, and he fell out a friggin' window of a high rise in Manhattan. Ugh. And almost gotta like keep the comedy at bay here because this is another one that always bugged me. Coming in number 28, Crazy Sexy Cool TLC. There was always just something about Lisa Left Eye Lopez. I don't know. I think she brought that edge, kind of a little bit of a bad girl edge to that group. Where I think if she wasn't there, they really just kind of just faded into obscurity. But the girl just had just a lot of demons. I remember her dating Andre Ricin. I want to say played with the Falcons, and yeah, man, she like totally went off the deep end. There was constant like domestics at the house, and then she wound up burning his shoes in the tub, and then burned down the whole fucking house. Excuse me. Coming in at number 27 with 11,600,000 album sales, released in February of 1994, kind of my freshman year of college. Green Day with Dookie. This album gave birth to some of the most protected fan base ever, ever. Because when Green Day hit with this, I'm sorry, I'm not from Anaheim. So wait, were they from Anaheim? 3 Minute Punk, Billy Joe Armstrong. They were from Anaheim, right? Or Oakland? Oakland? No, Anaheim. Oh, we don't edit here at the Gen X Locker. I learned that from my buddy Ed. Uh, Hang on. Anyway, what it would say where they were from. Well, I know they're from California. From California. Apparently, Green Day was like just really, really big on the underground punk scene. They had like an EP called Kerplunk. And I remember that circulated within like, the skaters in my high school. And damn, when they found out that you were listening to Dookie, hello, Kerplunk, do you even know what they're about, where they're from? Oh my God. They're on MTV. They completely sold out. That was like, since Metallica, that was like the next time I started to hear sellout. So coming in number 26, again, this is what, the third time she's on here? Miss Mariah Carey with Music Box. Mariah Carey dominated the 90s. She really did. That was released in August of 93. So moving right along to the top 25. So the top 25 best-selling albums of the 90s. And coming in at number 25, you know how this is not in the top 5. Never mind Nirvana. Now, understood it's not really their debut album. They had Bleach, but this one just, man, when it hit September 1991, I was 16, going on 17. This is an album that shaped me, especially because I didn't know, nobody knew what grunge was. And I remember it was like, I remember this girl I went to school with, Dana. She was like, well, they're like skater rock. What? Well, he says I'm a skater. No, he doesn't. He says like I'm a mosquito or something like that. And but it was just such a landmark album. Took the country by storm, took Gen X by storm. I mean, honest to God, if there's, if we could say there's, a male entity ambassador of Gen X, it's got to be Kurt Cobain. I mean, the man was just an amazing songwriter, a poet. There was just simplicity in his riffs, but it had that just gritty, disgusting edge, that rawness that just made this album what it was. Um, what can you say about it? Smells Like Teen Spirit, Lithium, In Bloom. I don't even have to look. Something in the Way, On a Plane. This was a great album. This was just a great album. Rounding out Nirvana was, now, of course, of Foo Fighter fame, Foo Fighter. Ladies and gentlemen, Foo Fighters. Got to do the Christopher Walken introducing the Foo Fighters in SNL. He told Dave Grohl, he says, when I introduce you, how do I say it? Where's the emphasis? Is it on Foo or is it on you fighters? And Dave Grohl said it's on fighters. That's what him and Taylor, God rest his soul. That's what they told Christopher Walken. And apparently Christopher Walken came out and he was like, ladies and gentlemen, Foo Fighters. So Foo Fighters. So, and, rounding out the band was Chris Novoselic. And then, later on, Pat Smear, who came from the Germs, kind of made them a four-piece. But, I can't say anything bad about this album. I love this album. I know a lot of people in the metal world despise this album. But, did you sell 12 million albums? No. So, zip it, Skippy. Moving right along, I said we're gonna come into some soundtracks because this is leading into one. Number 24. Let's talk about love. Miss Celine Dion. Miss Celine Dion. Je t'en les Quebec et le Nordiques. And then right into number 23 is the Titanic soundtrack. I mean, right back to back. And I mean, I saw Titanic in the movie theater, and it was long. Number 22. This was an interesting neo brigade of, rap rock fusion. Devil Without a Cause. They Call Me Kid. Watch on Kid Rock. Love this album. It's naughty. It's filthy. It starts fights and bars and everything else. But coming in at number 21, Boys to Men with Roman numeral 2. Boys to Men was another product of the 90s that dominated the 90s. And they were part of that Motown Philly back again. Put a little East Coast. Without New Edition, where would we be? Number 20 is so close to my heart. I'm sorry. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Here is my ultimate 90s crush, Jewel with Pieces of You. She's from Alaska. She lived in her van. Oh, Lord, what I could say about this album. Oh, do you love me some Jewel? Who will save your soul? Little Sister, Foolish Game, Painter's Morning Song. Oh, dear. It's just. And then I bought her album, A Night Without Armor, with a K. With an N. It was a book of poetry. I don't read poetry. And the Muppet comes back again, Mr. Kenny G with Breathless. I had to. I did say, what did I say? I said some songs just need more cowbell. Why do I have that? I have no idea. And it's funny because I was talking about Christopher Walken before. I got a fever. The only prescription is the Forrest Gump soundtrack. This was a great album. I mean, because it comes in at number 18, and it was just an album like this reminds me of the soundtrack to The Big Chill. Albums like this that are just a resurgence of classic songs that all of a sudden everybody just forgot about, and suddenly they're on the charts again. I dig that. Like in Wayne's World, where all of a sudden they put Bohemian Rhapsody back on the map. So, coming in at number 17, I mean, her name's Eileen, but then she started going by Shania. So Shania Twain, The Woman in Me, again, this one I don't understand, did not yield any number one singles. Yet, as far as I know, I remember listening to a lot of these. I have gas, and we don't edit here. I remember listening to a lot of these on Top 40 radio, like the top 40 radio stations that I worked in. So I challenge these statistics here, people. I'm calling the police. She married Mutt Lang, who was the producer of such albums like Pyromania, Def Leppard. Here's a band that you really couldn't. I mean, honest to God, like I mean, if you fell out of a boat, you hit Matchbox 20. Yourself or somebody like you, someone like you, coming in number 16. I remember saying on the air, 98.3, 95.7 WSUL, where it's Matchbox every 20. My program director didn't like that, but I don't care. Um, I didn't mind this album. I didn't loathe this album. You had Real World, Long Day, 3 a.m., Push You, A Round. You know, kind of. Number 15, this was definitely a country crossover album that came out. I don't do politics on here, but I'm sorry. These chicks are still the Dixie Chicks, wide open spaces. You couldn't deny this record. It was everywhere, and they are still the Dixie Chicks. Nobody cares that you're just the chicks moving right along. Number 14. Le temps bonjour, c'est Miss Celine Dion. Celine Dion was everywhere. Celine Dion with Falling Into You. And this actually did yield a number one single, Because You Loved Me. And she picked up Grammy Award for Best Pop Album of the Year in 1996. I remember that. What I always remembered about the CD was like that whiteout kind of thing. And it was like, what is that? Is that I see teeth and eyes? It's Celine Dion from Quebec. Coming in at number 13, personally, I think it should have been in the top 10 because it is 10. The debut album by Mookie Blaylock, who then changed their name to Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam, Mookie Blaylock, who played basketball for the Seattle Supersonics. Tell your friend Veronica. It's time for Hanukkah. Another landmark album where this was an album that, just like Nevermind, I put on from beginning to end. Loved this album, loved it, absolutely immersed myself in it. And yes, I admit, I loved some of the singles that were released, Even Flow, Alive, Jeremy, Black. Black was actually just an instrumental that Stone Gossard called E-Ballad, that he had no lyrics to, that Eddie Vedder, upon joining the band, kind of wrote down some lyrics on the train out to Seattle. So see, every once in a while, I know shit. So coming in at number 12, I remember when this was released. It was released in May of 99. And, it was like right during the whole Y2K scare. And the Backstreet Boys definitely, they won you over with this one because they called the album Millennium. And it was just like, what's to come. Again, I don't know anything about boy bands. I really don't know much about this album except is this the one with let me see, is this the one with it? Let me look. Oh shit, maybe not. Larger than life. Oh yeah, this is the show me the meaning of being alone. Ah, why do you do that? So good. Number 11, 14 million, 150,000 record sales released in September of 91. And I believe this was his second album, Mr. Garth Brooks with Rope in the Wind. I love this album. This and The Chase, those were like the two albums that I did love by Garth. And Garth was kind of like a staple in my household. My mom loved country music. Later on, my mom loved country music. And my dad, honest to God, my dad would put on like Italian opera. And going up to Lake George, New York from Long Island and listening to Pavarotti over and over and over. And here we are again, coming in at number 10. This is their 97 release, their self-titled album, The Backstreet Boys. Again, I can't say much about boy bands. I don't knock them entirely. Look, I didn't listen to them, but, I know they made Panties Drop. I didn't. Hey, more power to them. Number 9. This one I ate crow on. Britney Spears, Baby One More Time. The reason why I ate crow on this one is that right when this single was released, and the album there was again like right before the millennium, right before the Y2A the Y2K crossover, the whole Britney Spears thing came out. And I admit, I went on the air and I was like, yeah, well, who knows if she's going to yield a second hit. I usually always pretty good with spotting a one-hit wonder. So I'm not going to say it yet. Or am I going to say it yet? Here's Britney Spears. Britney Spears. Here's Britney Spears with Baby One More Time. And I did. I pegged her for a one-hit wonder. Who knew that, 12 years later, she'd start speaking with a British accent, shave her head, and go completely mad? But she did. Number 8. This is a great. This is one that I highly recommend to own on vinyl. It's somewhere in the other room. Supernatural, Santana. I mean, if you're into guitar and you're into really naughty, dirty, bluesy guitar, pick this album up. Just and did this great duet with Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20 called Smooth, and then there was the other one called Maria Maria. And I got to see them live, or him live with his band. And ironically enough, they were on tour with these guys. Hootie and the Blowfish coming in at number 7, Cracked Rear View. Great album, just a great album. Alt rock, kind of alt poppy college rock, a little reminiscent of maybe a little bit less depressed REM type of influence in there. Hold My Hand, Let Her Cry, Only Want to Be With You. Great album. Love this album. But I was not surprised when Darius Rucker kind of broke away and did the whole country thing, because I always felt he was a little belt buckly. I could say a lot about the next record. It was released in July of '91. I remember seeing the video for Enter Sandman, so we all know, coming in at number 6. Metallica with their self-titled album, aka the Black Album. This was a turning point for Metallica fans that were Metallica fans. They knew these first 4 albums, the raw intensity of Kill 'Em All, the complexity of Ride the Lightning, the amazing harmonies, and just the sound structure of Master of Puppets, into And Justice for All, where it just declared the death of the American dream. And next thing you know, this came out. Like I said, there's a lot I could say. I wasn't completely a non-fan out the gate. Metallica is not my gateway band into all things hard rock and heavy metal. It's actually those guys, Def Leppard. But I loved Metallica just the same. So yeah, what threw me for a loop was Metallica once upon a time swore that they were never going to make a video. They made a video for the song One off of, And Justice for All. But it was dark and it was creepy and everybody was like, all right, fine, leave it at that. And then next thing you know, they released this album and Enter Sandman, Sad But True, and The Unforgiven, and Wherever I May Roam, and Nothing Else Matters. And so it was different. Suddenly it wasn't your Metallica anymore. And then I remember the song, was Enter Sandman. I remember one of my cousins who, she listened to, pop and R&B and dance music and house music. She was like, oh, I like that song, Enter the Sandman. Can you just leave my shit alone and just go over there and do your rhythm as a dancer? Coming in at number 5, again, Mr. Garth Brooks with No Fences. I don't know what made me say rhythm as a dancer. I did say the 90s, yes, they were dominated by movie soundtracks. And this one is definitely a staple of 90s soundtracks, The Bodyguard. I only saw this movie once. I didn't dislike it. I just always remember that Kevin Costner, before he got his bodyguard gig, he was part of the Secret Service and he worked under Reagan. And I remember somebody in Whitney Houston's entourage was like, well, didn't Reagan get shot? And he was like, I wasn't on shift that day. I'm paraphrasing, of course. He did call Kurt Cobain the male ambassador, if you will, of Gen X. So if we had to put a queen of ambassadorial duties, is that a word? It's going to be her. You know who it is. Coming in at number 3, Jagged Little Pill, Miss Alanis Morissette. this was a great album. This was a great album because I remember working at a station called WKOJ that then became WRRV. Even though they weren't WKOJ, they had to be on paper, but they were just KOJ and Orange County's hit music. And I remember hearing this, and yeah, You Ought to Know was like the first single I remember hearing, and I was like, okay, she doesn't like somebody. And what did she do to that guy in a movie theater? And of course, we all know the rumors about, is it Joey Gladstone from Full House, Dave Coulier? The funny thing is that in recent interviews, I don't know. I think they must have spoken, behind closed doors or on the phone secretly. Like he's probably wearing like a beach hat and sunglasses, and he's behind a porta potty, and he's talking to her, and she's at a cafe with a newspaper across her face, and they probably worked it out. Do I believe it was about him? Absolutely. I mean, it's she hooked up with the guy. Something she said she murdered him. So I mean, why is it so unbelievable? She's Canadian. He hangs out with Canadians. He was like so into hockey. So wait, is he Canadian? Shit, I should have researched that. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's not like a big, screaming lie that it's like an impossibility that she dated this guy, and he broke her heart. So she wrote an album about him. I mean, come on. Gwen Stefani, hello. But in recent years, they have both neither confirmed nor denied it. So guess what? It's about him. Coming in at number 2, the Double Live album is the number 2 selling album of the 90s, and it's Mr. Garth Brooks again. I really didn't think that the Double Live album here was that high on the charts. I really didn't know. I was kind of shocked. And I was really shocked at number 1. So again, coming in at number 1, and I guess they compiled this data, like I said in the beginning of the episode, I guess January 1st of 1990, and then I guess they stopped compiling the data on New Year's Eve of 1999. So they got that 10-year bracket in. So apparently, the number 1 selling record of the 1990s with 23,350,000 album sales, which I'm sure if we look it up, it's probably skyrocketed by now, is Miss Shania Twain with Come On Over. So that's it. That's the top 50. Like I said, I mean, you could look at, some of the other ones that are, in the other 50, going backwards from, 100 down. Verses from Pearl Jam comes in at number 78. There was a lot of stuff that I just passed Vanilla Ice. We're not going to talk about that. I keep forgetting he is 90s, very, very early 90s. Limp Bizkit with Significant Other at 75. Dave Matthews Band, who I hate and I can't stand, at number 73. Sheryl Crow, Tuesday Night Music Club, coming in at 71. And let's see, let's look at them. Oh, yeah, The Chase was in here. The Chase by Garth Brooks was at 53. And I'm going to say right before, because we started at 50, we started with Billy Ray Cyrus. Right before Billy Ray Cyrus was the Eagles with Hell Freezes Over. So that's what I got. So, yeah, I mean, not really a quick episode, but, like I said, I picked this book up at Ollie's, and, they got cheap books. I think I paid like $2.45 for it. So, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just read you kids a bedtime story. So, as always, I appreciate you tuning in. Please like and subscribe. Please share it all around because I'm really, really, really trying to get it off the ground here. I took a bit of a risk. For those of you that know me, know that I had like another YouTube channel that was just nonsense, and I had like a viral video of raccoons that got like millions of views, and I wound up getting paid, and I wound up getting like nearly 7,000 subscribers. But I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start a whole new thing. I mean, I could have started this channel with 7 some odd thousand subscribers. I was like, nah, screw it. Who are those people? They're probably just random people from all over the world that was like, oh, cool, this guy rescued raccoons out of a dumpster. So I mean, I just felt like, do I wanna? Like, yeah. So here we are. So again, like and subscribe. I appreciate everybody being here. I mean, wholeheartedly. You guys are the ones that's making it happen. And I'm really having a lot of fun with this. And again, shout outs to everybody that's in my corner. My buddy Ed, The Realms of Metal, check him out. My cousin Jerry, check him out on Derry X Dines. my cousin Dominic, who's is it Van Dominic Guitar Apartment Metal shit? I forgot. Um, and everybody else that's been in my corner, from Scow, Pete, for all the technical things that I don't know, like why the McAfee came up and said, "Hey, you're about to get a virus, so do I need penicillin?" And of course, as always, my wife, who oh God, she's gonna strangle me because she's upstairs and going, "Why is he screaming?" Because I'm getting a new microphone very shortly. So again, like and subscribe, and questions and comments, drop them right there. I appreciate all the new followers. And if you have any questions or comments that you don't want to leave as a question or a comment, you can email us. I sound so awesome at the Gen X Locker, all one word, all lowercase, at outlook.com. So until then, I got some things brewing, and we will see you very soon. So, as they said for WHTZ 100, keep it here and rip the knob off.